My name is Sheronica Burgess. I am the CEO of the Barcliff Group, which is a healthcare administration and consulting company.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Todd Harris. I'm CEO of Skillshot Media. My background is making video games, and Skillshot puts on experiential live events around video games. So imagine what ESPN does for sports, Skillshot does for video games, which is called esports, and happy to be with you guys today.
Good morning, I'm Patrice Frady. I'm the Economic Development Director for GreyStone Power Corporation.
What was your first job and what did it teach you?
So my first job was at 15. During those times, you had to get a worker's permit. And I was so excited. I was like, Mom, I want to make my own money. I want to get a few things I wanted to do, just be more independent in thinking in that time as a teenager. And so I worked in retail at a department store. They were one of the few places that would take a worker's permit because there was so much concern around working with youth. And I remember really loving that job, and I repeated it over the summers. Even so, when I went to college, and one of the things my supervisor really stressed about was, responsibility. And much like Todd said, like once you committed, you're on the schedule, you have to show up. And I remember there were times I was involved in activities. I ran track, I played softball, or if my friends were going to see a movie, but I signed up to come to work, then that meant that I had to honor the commitment. And that really means a lot, in career and progression and really just day-to-day life and even now. One of the other things that really resonated was balance, My mom was really heavy on me doing my schoolwork and she did not play. So the grades had to stay up. If I would continue just doing track or sports or dance, I had to make sure that I had a nice balance. And sometimes there weren't answers that my parents could give me. They were answers I had to find out and seek on my own. And I think that discovery process, that understanding balance, I know about you guys, but I'm still learning that story to this day as you move forward. So
Great. My first job was nothing like related to video games. It was when I was in high school and I really just wanted work and I wasn't particular around what it was. And I signed up to work at multiple temp agencies. And the skills that I had at that point was I was very good at computers, but most companies weren't even using computers in their daily workflow back then because I'm kind of old. And I was very good at typing. I had taken a typing class in high school and I could type wicked fast. And so my thought was I would get a nice office job where it would be air conditioned and I would type and maybe do computers. That's not what happened. Most people saw that I was a young male and could maybe lift heavy things, not that I was that strong. And most of the jobs that I got involved moving heavy things. So I worked in a little bit in the construction and insulation industry, and I worked in a Coca-Cola bottling plant. I cleaned up malls at the parking lot, sweeping them. I just did whatever odd jobs they would give me for that week. It taught me a few things. One, it actually did teach me just the importance of a good work ethic, like just basics of showing up on time and, putting in hard work for the hourly pay that I was getting. And that was great. But it made me value skill development even more because it wasn't something, it was great for a summer and I did it 2 summers, but it wasn't something I would have ideally done for the rest of my life. So it actually taught me, okay, maybe you need to get even more into computers and more into these other skills so that you could do something different. So that's kind of was some of my lessons out of that experience. Hard work matters. And also, if you have skills that the market needs, you can improve the type of work that you're doing and make it more fit with your personality. So that's a little bit about my first job.
Sure, Todd, I think you and I are about the same age. I took typing as well, and I was pretty good at it too. So my first job was at Revco. That dates me as well. It was eventually purchased by CVS, but I started working there when I was 16 years old, and I worked there for 6 years throughout college. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was an awesome experience for me. It really taught me the importance of meeting people where they are in life as far as customer service goes. There at times there were people who couldn't see their money, or more or less count their money, and you had to have patience, and you had to extend grace to people in an arena like that. And so it was important to me to treat everyone with respect. It also was an opportunity to learn the importance of getting to work on time. I know Sheronica mentioned this, Todd mentioned this as well, but it's important that you follow whatever rules and regulations, policies that are in place. And working in a pharmacy for me, there were a lot of rules, which is good for me. I'm all about rules. But it was a lot there that we had to follow. And so it was a great opportunity. I came from a small town, so I got an opportunity to meet everyone that I didn't already know in my small town. And I was able to build relationships. And that was one of the lessons that I learned in that job at 16 that would later take me on throughout my career to this day. So it was an awesome experience for me.
How did you end up in your current role, and what was your career path like?
Yes, I actually did not think I would be an entrepreneur. I did not. I did love school. My brother and I were first generation college students. So much like Miss Jordan said, I didn't automatically know college was an option, but it put the battery in my back to do so. Because I'm like, I want to do that. I want to soak up as much as I can. Luckily, my mom was really, really supportive in that, and she pushed me. So I did go to school, undergrad at University of Virginia. My brother joined me in his second year, so it was like tag team kind of duo. It's kind of cool now I think about it. It's like, right now you in school with me. I don't know how cool that was then. Um, I was interested in healthcare. I had a career path turn. I just knew I wanted to be a doctor. Once I got into the classwork, I love the classwork, but learned that I'm left and right brain. And that's the kind of world that I want to live in. So when I got out, I got a career. I moved to Washington, D.C. I worked for a company that sent me across the nation. Like they made no bones about it. And from there, I soaked up as much as I could. Even at that point, I didn't think that I would be, I hadn't had creating a company or founding a company in mind until about year 6. And I just started weaving these concepts together through exposure. I would see how the company had contractors and they were doing various jobs. And I just began to wonder, what would it be like to create something that had an impact in healthcare quality, right? And what does that look like? And so I'll be honest, fear was a factor at some point because I did not have in my pedagogy those who started a company. I had many, many talented family members, but none of them actually started a company. Then I had to think about, my mom was like, be a good person. My dad was like, just be a good person, good steward, work, have a great life. And here I am about to toss my degree to the side, move to a different city, start a new company. And they're like, whoa, what is going on? But I always preface what I do in my current role with letting the youth know that it took time and cultivation. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't instantaneous success. Those 6 and 8 years that I worked in DC in healthcare quality, I actually worked with some amazing people. I call them geniuses. I learned from them. I learned the pros and the cons, what I like about management, what I didn't like about management, what I wanted to see reflected in myself. What was my purpose? And I always say that because, entrepreneurship can be seen as such a very glamorized term. And when I jumped out, I knew it was time, and it'll be 10 years in June. So I don't see it.
Yeah, Sheronica just dropped so much knowledge there about facts about entrepreneurship. Because so like her, I am an entrepreneur currently, but I didn't start out that way, certainly. For me, going way, way back, high school me eventually did get a typing gig, a nice air-conditioned office. And as a office secretary, basically, I saw that this group, this is way back when, was sending out these mailing labels, snail mail kids, and they were printing them out by hand that seemed really inefficient. And I used my computer skills to make a little database for them so they could manage their contacts. So I took initiative. I wasn't really getting paid as a programmer. I was being paid as a typist, but I did take that initiative and build that for them, which they loved and I loved. And I fell in love with using computers to bring something new into the world. And so that confirmed for me that this was my thing. I went to UNC Chapel Hill. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. I went to Chapel Hill to learn computer science. And then I wanted to build things with computers. And I was fortunate to get couple summer internships with a very large company, particularly back then called NCR. NCR had just moved their headquarters to Atlanta, and I got a summer internship there. And maybe like Sheronica, that was it was a very large company. It was not very entrepreneurial, but I learned a lot being at a large company. They invested a lot in me in terms of management, training, and I just kind of sucked up all that I could, even though to me, the company was kind of moving at the pace of a snail, but I was learning a lot. And I saw an opportunity to do the same sort of thing. We were making point of sales. Like if you go to a gas station or a Chick-fil-A or movie theater and they're taking your order, those are the kind of systems they built. I saw an opportunity to join a much smaller company that was a startup company doing the same thing. And I took a big pay cut to do that. I just thought I would maybe grow even faster there. And it was a time in my life when I was willing, I was in a position where I could do that. So that kind of made me fall in love with startup life and building products with computers. And after doing that for, a decade and a half, there was a unique opportunity to start a company making video games. That company is called High Res Studios. If any of you played the game Smite or Paladins, we made those games, and it's about 150 million people that have played a video game from this Georgia-based company. And that's really what brought me from business applications with computers to making video games with computers, which was even more fun to me because you're in the entertainment business. So that's multiple decades that brought me to where I was. And I would say, as Sheronica said, if you join a big company, that can be a great opportunity. And it was for me. It was like the right thing for me as a young person, because I could just have all this skill development that the company was paying for. And then small companies also have advantages because you can kind of do as much. No one's going to tell you no. You can wear a lot of hats, but it's also a lot more unstructured and chaotic. And so that's just something to keep in mind, down the road, if you're deciding maybe between big company and really small company, forgetting even about being your own entrepreneur. That's a whole other set of risk tolerance you have to think about. But even just thinking about big company or small company, it's always important, I think, to think about the trade-offs, because both can be great, but they're very different often.
I too went to undergrad. I attended Georgia Southern and got my graduate degree at Georgia State while I was gainfully employed by the state. I've pretty much been in quasi-government most of my career. My first job was at the state capitol. I was in the well, let me take a step back. I did 2 internships at the Capitol. I was with the legislative session in 1999, a long time ago. And then I worked in the Secretary of State's office for a bit as an intern. And then I got a job based on my history there. I was able to get a job in the Senate Communications Office. So I was able to work for our state senators here in Georgia for a few years. And then I went on to the Municipal Association, where I got an opportunity to represent cities, which I really enjoyed. And so I would say that my current role is interesting. I work for the power company, and I knew some of the people that worked here. And so a position became available, opened up for a legislative position, lobbying at the Capitol. Not really sure why I wanted to go back but I did apply. And fortunately for me, I did not get the job. And sometimes a door closing is a good thing. And so I did not get the job, but I did speak to the president of the company a couple weeks later, and he said, "Hey, you had such an awesome interview. We want you here. We got a position for you if you're interested." And so just a month or so later, I started working here as the economic development director. So again, for me, building relationships and just being a resource to people has been really beneficial for me in my path and my journey as far as my career goes. And so I've just been fortunate, not just fortune, but I put a lot of work into it as well. And so it's just, things have just worked out for me.
What lessons have you learned along the way? What advice do you have for someone just starting their career?
We could go on and on. But I think what rises to the top is be mindful of how you show up. To example, the company that I have now, some of the staff, the doctors, nurses, and admin are folks I worked with while I was in DC. That's before the company was even created. And one of the reasons that they felt comfortable partnering and working for the Barcliff Group is because they had seen me in my development years. They saw how I showed up. So that rapport and relationship is important. So whether you're playing sports, whether you're going up for an internship, whether you are looking for your first job, be mindful how you show up and show up correct. The second thing is take your time. I think nowadays it's vastly different than when I grew up. There's so much instantaneous access to things, instant download, streaming, that we may forget the process of cultivating things over time, and that it's normal and organic. Get time to know yourself, take time to reflect. There aren't any right or wrong answers. There are only answers that are correct and purposeful for you. And I think that I look back in my childhood and remember, growing up into professionalhood, it's like, hey, that's something I still do today. Is this purposeful? Is this aligned? But it all begins with taking that time. It doesn't always have to be the fast track. It does not have to be. So, yeah.
So I'll give three really just kind of specific tactical pieces of advice, I would say. The first one, this comes from new employees that we're bringing on. It also comes from my own kids. I got a 21-year-old, a 24-year-old. So the first one is communicate. And I would say maybe over communicate in your idea. I feel like looking at my own kids and I'm a video game guy. Like, I love online stuff, but there are many people that they're not comfortable talking to another human on the phone, where they didn't grow up acknowledging an email, just literally like, I hear you, I see what you're saying, I am on it. It's not like you have to be this excellent public speaker all the time or amazing writer, but I would encourage you to over communicate with your supervisor and your peers, just in terms of getting the work done, because I feel like that will help you and it will help the organization and you'll be recognized. The second one is, I would encourage everyone to try to be receptive to feedback that you get on the job. When you're first starting out, and we all have fragile egos, and it's not easy to hear what we're not doing well. But if you think of feedback as a gift, I mean, it's free learning for you. Hopefully it's delivered constructively, but harness it and use it to your advantage, because it's things that can drive you to improve. So I would say try to take feedback constructively. And then the third one, very, very tactically, is if you do not have a LinkedIn profile, maybe some of you are a little young, but I really encourage you, 2024, it's not a shortcut, but it sure helps to be out there on LinkedIn. You're probably active on IG and X and whatever else you might be into, but for the business world, not just getting a job, but understanding what's happening in the industry. I mean, you can connect with a CEO in whatever you're interested in and follow him or her and see what they're posting about and comment and get a dialogue going. And I know many, many, many people that have gotten their first job or their second job or their dream job through that resource. So I really encourage people to be active on that platform, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything, you know, but your time. So
I'll say along those same lines, someone is always watching. So just know that. Be aware, just like Sheronica said, somebody is paying attention to you. So either you're doing the work or you're not doing the work. They already know. So I think that's important that you be mindful that someone is always watching you. And again, hard work does pay off. There are no shortcuts. I guess there is in 2024, but at the end of the day, there really aren't any shortcuts. You still have to do the work. You have to learn. You have to put forth the effort to be good at whatever it is you choose to do in life. And my other piece, in a more traditional setting, I think I said the last time I was on the panel, avoid negative people. If you're in an office setting and you find yourself always hearing negative chatter, find someone else to stand next to or sit next to. It's not going to do any good for you. It's not going to help you in any way to be a part of negative conversations. If it is a negative environment, you know what to do. Get everything you can out of the situation and move on. But I would not encourage you to be a part of the negative group within the organization.